We've got a deadly rad scorpion on our hands. What will we ever do? Hey everyone, what's up? Overworld Games here, and yes, we've got a brand new patch that is rolling out right now today. And with it, of course, comes patch notes. So we've got a lot to discuss because we've got some balance and stability changes, plus some changes to perks, weapons, and more. So yeah, a lot to dive into in this video. But as always, a very special thank you to you guys who actually let me know about the patch notes out on social media, Twitter, Discord, Facebook. Thank you so much for hitting me up. Remember, you can follow me out on Twitter, Facebook, elsewhere by seeing the description below. So go for it. Let me know if you find out anything cool, you know, about Fallout 76, Cyberpunk, and so on and so forth. I'm also covering Anthem, as you may have noticed, but let's dive straight into these patch notes, because I know you guys are waiting for that. But yes, welcome back, my fellow Vault Dwellers and Wasteland Wonders, to Open World Games. Let's do this. So yes, there's a statement here at the top of the patch notes, and let's just dive into it. So of course the download size is going to be approximately 3.5 gigabytes for consoles and 500 megabytes for PC. Now, of course, we're going to be seeing more performance improvements with this patch, as well as stability improvements to the client and servers, so they do note that. But I know you guys are wondering mostly about balance changes to perks and weapons and so on and so forth. So it says this: for perks, the damage bonuses provided by each rank of the Demolition Expert perk have been reduced from plus 20%, 40%, 60%, so on and so forth, to plus 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, and 60% to match other weapon perk damage bonuses. So that's been nerfed for sure, because the top tier of that was 100% improvement, and then it's only 60% once you get to the higher tier of the Demolition Expert perk. So that's noteworthy there. Now, they also say the condition loss bonuses provided by each rank of the White Knight and Licensed Plumber perks have been reduced as well, from 30%, and then of course rank 2 60%, and then rank 3's 90%, from to perk rank 1 being 20%, perk rank 2 being 40%, and then finally rank 3 being 60%. So that has definitely been reduced. And they say this has been reduced to match the Power Patcher perk as well. Now, they do look at a dev note here. They do post a dev note here that we'll look at. That's what I meant to say. They say, in looking at the Demolition Expert, White Knight, and Licensed Plumber perks, we felt they have so far been outperforming in their current roles, and we wanted to bring them more in line with similar perks to help prevent them from feeling like mandatory picks. So that's why they basically decided to reduce those perks and basically nerf them. Alright, so we have some weapon changes as well. It says this: the explosive legendary mod's damage bonus has been reduced from plus 100% to plus 20% of base weapon damage with explosive radius damage. And then the two-shot legendary effects damage bonus has been reduced from plus 100% to plus 25% of base weapon damage. And then a dev note here as well. It says, as mentioned in a previous Inside the Vault article, both the explosive mod and two-shot weapons could result in dealing very high amounts of damage, and this was compounded if two-shot and explosives were combined. We've decided to tone both of these damage bonuses back. So there you have it, another nerf. And then flamers, cryolators, and plasma weapons and laser weapons can no longer spawn with explosive legendary mod. And then the dev note here says the explosive mod caused weapons to fire bullets that are, well, explosive. The weapon listed above don't fire bullets, so we're temporarily removed the ability for them to spawn with that mod applied, so we can make adjustments. So that's temporary, and they will be further making adjustments to that sort of thing as time moves on. Alright, let's keep going, shall we? So next up, we have some camp crafting and workshop changes, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be curious about that one for sure. So let's take a look-see. So for the camp, it says this: scrapping. It says loose weapon and armor mods are now protected from auto scrapping auto scrapping when crafting. However, they can still be scrapped manually if a player wants to break them down into scrap components. Now, what about turrets? It says an owned tag will now appear next to the names of turrets a player has built in their camp or a workshop, so you'll be able to basically better identify stuff that you own. Now, let's take a look at carry weight. It says it is now capped to an absolute limit of 1,500 pounds over the character's current maximum carry weight. So, for example, if your carry weight is carry limit is 210 pounds, then your maximum limit is going to be 1,700 pounds. So, characters will be unable to exceed this new weight limit moving forward, and characters who already exceed this limit will be unable to add any additional items or caps to their inventories until they have reduced their carry weight below the cap. Now, a developer know about why this has changed. They say this: these limits exist primarily to keep servers from performing poorly, which can happen when we have too many items in the game world. They also play a role in helping to regulate in-game economy. We do recognize the desire to be able to own more of the cool items that we have in game, and we are looking into a variety of solutions, including increasing the stash size. We'll be sure to talk more about this when they are ready. Yeah, so when I first read this, I was initially thinking they're probably prepping for a stash update, and this is one way they can actually prep for that stash update. Let me know if this carry weight limit worries you, or if you think it's a pain in the butt. Please be vocal in the comments below. Sound off. Alright, so let's talk about cap stashes, plans, and recipes, and vendors. So it says this: to help address cap exploits, cap stashes have been turned into containers, which allows them to properly reset and provide players with instant loot. And then when viewing a plan or recipe in a menu, a known tag will now appear next to the names of recipes and plans the player has already learned. Now, what about vendors? It says recipes and plans and vendors inventories are no longer randomized and can now be reliably sourced from those vendors, with the exception of some minor workshop and camp plans. That's great to hear. They say the appearance of many plans and recipes and vendors inventories is based on player level, and they will show up once the proper level has been reached. Now, additional structural plans for wall sets, power connectors, doors, generators, and water purifiers have also been added to some vendors, so some camp stuff have been thrown in there as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about PvP. You know, PvP is going to be big here in March. There's going to be a brand new update related to a whole new PvP mode coming up, which, from what I'm understanding, a lot of you guys don't want PvP to be a focus for updates. But anyway, it says this for Hunter Hunted. It says a server-wide message will now appear when a player joins the Hunter Hunted queue. This message will only be displayed once per player to avoid spam. An additional server-wide message will be displayed when Hunter Hunted is ready to begin, in order to give players a final chance to join. So, if you want to get involved with Hunter Hunted, of course, it's going to let you know that someone has joined that for sure. We are on the hunt for a super mutant that is roaming around in this workshop. Trust me, we will find him soon. Alright, so let's talk about quests and events. It says this: Belly of the Beast, a new ultrasight power armor entry has been added to the Taggarty's terminal on the top floor of Fort Defiance, offering ultrasight power armor plans to those who read it. First contact, it says this: a new miscellaneous objective will now appear upon reaching the Overseer's camp for the first time, prompting the player to place a camp of their own. And then the Gully Mine, it says a new miscellaneous objective will now appear at the Gully Mine to introduce players to ore deposits. And Monster Mash says the amount of XP rewarded per round during this event has been reduced from 350 to 100. Man, another XP nerf in the game. That's kind of a bummer to see. Alright, so let's talk about bug fixes. It says art and graphics. Lighting no longer flickers throughout Arcus Pharma. And then apparel, fix an issue that could cause a character's leg to show through Rose's dress while it is equipped. So that has been adjusted as well. So we have some more adjustments to camp crafting and workshops. They fix an issue that could prevent artillery from being placed in valid locations. Then they address an issue with blueprints. It says address an issue preventing players from placing a stored blueprint containing posts that were placed partially underground when the blueprint was originally saved. And then budgets, it says scrapping a stored blueprint, that contained wires will now correctly remove those wires from the camp budget. And then they addressed a bunch of exploits which allows players to duplicate their stored blueprints, and then another exploit that could allow players to reduce their carry weight to a negative value, so that has also been addressed. Now, they also addressed some various other things here, so let's take a look. So, it goes on to say this: Foundations fix an issue that can cause a cannot place item needs support message to display when editing a partially floating foundation. Then power armor stations. Players can no longer view power armor they do not own when attempting to access a power armor station that's occupied by another player. And then there's some scrapping things. They say this: ignition cores crafted for the Earth Mover event are no longer automatically scrapped when using the scrap all junk option at a workbench. And then junk items that need to be manually scrapped are no longer automatically scrapped for components when attempting to craft. So good news there. And then stored objects. Repeatedly attempting to place an atomic shop variant of an object that player has stored but does not own no longer prevents them from placing other variants. And then there's some other things about fixing the issue from preventing a camp or workshop structures from being edited when building levels had merged or split several times. And then for terminals, it says power terminals contained within a stored blueprint now work correctly when the blueprint is placed in a new location. So also there's some fixes to challenges here, and then as well as enemies, and then some general loading fixes as well. They did adjust the collect holotape games. Nuka Tapper sub-challenge can now be completed by playing the Nuka Tapper holotape game. So some adjustments there to some of this stuff related to challenges. And then also for the enemy AI, it says fix an issue in which some enemies could chase the player farther than intended and become frozen in place. And then they address several XP exploits by adding a limit to the maximum amount of XP granted by a single kill. And then also fix an issue with looting that could prevent players from looting goo and ash piles after killing an enemy with a laser or plasma weapon, which I know is a known issue. Good to know that has been fixed and nailed down as well. Now, some performance issues and loading issues have been adjusted too, but some of this stuff is related to actual areas in the game world. The Scorched Earth event has received optimization improvements. And then on laptops with more than one graphics card, which is kind of rare, they adjusted some stuff with that. And then, yeah, some Chinese client stuff there. Then they adjusted items here. It says bobbleheads. Using multiple explosive bobbleheads no longer causes their effects to stack, so that's not going to be something you can do. And then addressed an exploit that could allow players to duplicate items using modest vendors. And then also addressed an exploit in which the vampire legendary effect could restore health through unintended means. And then also magazines. Remove magazines from several locations where they were unintentionally guaranteed to spawn. And then tomahawks no longer become stuck in midair after striking a hostile creature or player. So good to know. A ton of fixes here in this patch. Wow. You can really see how this game released basically in beta. Or even like alpha. There are so many fixes, it's crazy. You guys should read about all of them, but here's something to know about perks. It says Butcher's Bounty. Searching a dead tick with the Butcher's Bounty perk equipped now can correctly produce additional tick blood. And then Cap Collector now requires players to search cap stashes, much like other perks that grant a search option for containers. So that's super important to remember going into this. So you know how you have additional perks where you can search for medical containers. You have to press spacebar and then you reveal stuff. So that's going to be what's happening with Cap Collector as well. So just remember that. It's now more of it's not a passive perk anymore. You got to activate it basically. So let's talk about exploits. It says address an exploit affecting the Curator perk. And then Fireproof. Flame attack damage reduction provided by the Fireproof perk now correctly applies to Molotov fire damage. And then also we have some additional stuff here for Serendipity. It says a notification will now appear on screen and sound effects will play whenever Serendipity perks effects are triggered. Ooh. And then Super Duper can no longer trigger when crafting quest items. And then Traveling Pharmacy. So a lot of people use this one now. Correctly applies its weight reduction effect to Radaway, diluted Radaway, stim packs, diluted stim packs, blood packs, glowing blood packs, disease cures, and antibiotics. So that's become more valuable with this update. So there's another, is this another PvP section? Oh, it is. That's kind of weird. Okay, so we have another PvP section here. It says respawn, fix an issue that could prevent a player who was killed in water from correctly ending PvP upon responding. And then stealth, address an issue in which stealth damage bonuses could still be applied by sneaking players. Attacks during PvP, even that player was within their target's line of sight. Okay. And then wanted, fix an issue that could cause the bounty amount for a wanted player to appear halved on the map when approaching that player in the game rule. So some PvP issues addressed. Now there's some also some quests and events that have been adjusted. You guys can read on those, but they relate to breach and clear, early warnings, and then also, you know, other events. It says fast traveling after joining the event will now correctly remove the player from that event and will no longer prevent them from joining proximity event at the fast travel destination. So yeah, some changes to that. And then Flavors of Mayhem has seen some changes, signal strength, and then second helpings. But in terms of survival, we have some changes to diseases. It says the rad worm disease now correctly increases rad damage taken by 50%. So there you have that. And then user interface changes as well, but definitely check those out for sure. There are a bunch of fixes related to that. But guys, there you have it. A very big patch here for sure. Look at that explosion. Gotta love explosions in Fallout 76. But thank you guys so much for watching and the support on the videos. Look out for more news related to Fallout 76, Anthem, and Cyberpunk. That's kind of the rotation now on the channel. So stay tuned for sure. And then once we get into spring, hopefully I can throw in Borderlands 3 here. That would be really, really cool. And then, yeah, we'll see what happens this summer with upcoming games, new games like Starfield. I'll have you guys in the know about that one too. But yeah, right now expect news about Fallout 76, Cyberpunk 2077, and of course Anthem. Thank you guys so much for the love and support on the videos. Hope you all have been doing well, and I will see you once again in the Wasteland. Take care.